Happy Tuesday, the 2nd of January. It is America Now with Buck Sexton. Buck is going to be back in just a few days. Bryan Suits filling in for Buck from balmy Sherman Oaks, California. My home base is KFI Radio here in Los Angeles. I'm the host of The Dark Secret Place, which is now America's premier weekly radio show about the war on terror, stuff melting down, etc. A lot of things to get to about Twitter, North Korea, missiles, Kim Jong-un's New Year's Day address, and stuff like that. But events in Iran are changing by the moment, and so I thought we would get an expert, an absolute expert on. You know her from Fox News. She's the editor-in-chief at the foreigndesk.com. She's also an Iranian-American investigative journalist based here in Los Angeles. Lisa Daftari joins us, and we'll talk about I want to talk about the Foreign Desk, your venture, your news venture, coming up a little later. But let's start with the latest out of Tehran, out of Iran in general. So I mean, let me start with this: how widespread are these protests versus 2009, and how organic are these protests versus 2009?
Hi, Bryan. Those are some great questions, and thank you for giving such a thought to this very important issue that was buried over the weekend with regards to our foreign policy, with regards to human rights, with regards to who would have thought this would have happened again. I for sure did not after 2009 and watching these brutal crackdowns on these young children coming out into the streets, being quashed so badly, and then to come out again only several years later. But now there's some differences, and I think you really hit the nail on the head. Main difference being that this is not just a Tehran millennial type of uprising. This is expansive. And we're talking about cities that have traditionally been conservative, clerical, religious, pro-government, where you have masses of people chanting, not about the economy, not about anything but death to the dictator, which is the ultimate thing that they could be chanting right now. The slogans have become so radicalized, very similar to 2009, where it started as a contested election and evolved very quickly into taking down the entire regime. Now you saw the same thing. Maybe the underlying currents here were a very poor economy, watching their government pour their money into Hezbollah, into Syria, into Yemen, into Iraq, saying enough is enough. And very quickly, all around Iran, city by city, I'm watching this from the ground, that they're asking for an end to this Muslim clerical regime.
Yeah, that's the thing that really struck me, and while looking around for American media analysis on this, obviously the American media was on vacation, last week, this week. They can't be bothered with this, and for a lot of people who are unaware of this, I'll have you explain, because the American media doesn't understand this, that the, quote, president, close quote, of Iran, whether it's Ahmadinejad or Rouhani, the president is practically a figurehead. The real power is always laid in the hands of the Supreme Council of the Islamic Republic, the Skiri, and the Ayatollah Khamenei.
Absolutely, and I think that's the lie, or the good cop, bad cop, that's been played fraudulently against the Iranian people. So they would have these elections, and to make the people feel like they have a choice, first of all, the election would come from, only the candidates who would be approved by the Expediency Council could run. So who are they going to choose? Obviously people who are part and parcel of their system, their regime, etc. Rouhani just won a re-election, and he won this re-election and won his first election based on the fact that he was, quote-unquote, this moderate figure within the regime. He also ran his campaign on being this economic savior for the Iranian people, and obviously he failed on both those promises. And now you see the first days of the protests, a lot of the slogans were against Rouhani. But again, very quickly that evolved into slogans against Khamenei. And now they're basically calling out all these figureheads and saying, you're all the same, we're done with it, we don't want a dictatorship, and calling out the entire regime, and starting with these chants against Khamenei, going very, 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 very quickly and becoming radicalized by setting fire to a lot of these sites, vandalizing property, and now backing down. I think in 2009 we saw a more sheepish type of crowd. Obviously, they weren't as seasoned. I think the years between added a lot of pressure to the Iranian people. I think it taught them a lot about organization. I think there's still something missing for them to go to phase two, to move this movement and to get some significant outcomes from it. But I definitely see some major maturing from 2009, which has led to this movement lasting so many days and expanding so wide across the country.
Yeah, there seems to be a pretty widespread sophistication in regards to how to get your message out electronically. So the regime now has evidently just about 2 hours ago shut the internet down, but people are still finding a way to get out. So I want you to comment on that, and without compromising your sources, of course. But then, secondly, it seems like the people on the streets phase is either at its high water mark or it's about to move on. Like in 1979, the next big indicator is when security forces, whether it's local police or the draftee army, not the Pasdaran Revolutionary Guard, when they start going over to the side of the demonstrators. So let me ask you that first. Have you heard of anything like that happening so far?
That's going to be more tricky. Then the reason for that is because in 1979, you had the Shah's forces were of the Iranian people. It was like this country. The cops are Americans. They're part of the population. In Iran, you have the Revolutionary Guard. The Revolutionary Guard has its different branches, and of course, the forces that are out on the streets are the besieged forces. The besieged forces are usually this paramilitary kind of day fighters that are brought in, whether they're Palestinian, Jordanian, they're not Iranian. So they're not as empathetic to the cause of the Iranian people on the streets. They will kill for their next meal. And that's the issue we have. We saw the same brutality when Khomeini's forces were of the besieged, with same type of individuals that were unleashed onto the streets to kill, to make everyone go back into their homes. Unfortunately, that might be the next step in escalation here, to have these types of brutal killers and crackdowns begin to make people, basically sit at home and stop the protests. With regards to the defectors of any kind, there were some rumors that some of the members of the government had been leaving on unmarked planes and uncharted planes over the weekend. I had zero confirmation of this. It makes sense that this would happen, but I don't have any confirmation. And with regards to your first question, going back to the Twitter revolution that began in 2009 and continues, our main source, and I think that the source of hope for the Iranian people that go out onto the streets, is the civilian journalism that they are employing. By taking, you see the videos of these demonstrations and the protests, and there's so many videos, there's so many phones up in the air, it's like a concert. It's unbelievable. And with regards to getting around the blockage of these social media sites, that is a normal day-to-day thing for Iranians. And it's funny because I knew about this, that the Instagram and Telegram were temporarily shut down, and I came to tweet about it, and I was like, that's a normal thing for Iranians. They are used to using proxy servers, third-party servers, to bounce off and get to the sites that they need. So on any given day, sites like WhatsApp or Instagram or even Google have been shut down in the past. This is something that's very normal. What's very interesting is having Donald Trump call for these American platforms that own these social media companies to not take down these platforms and to allow the Iranian people this stage and this way in which they can tell their stories, and to allow journalists like myself, like yourself, to really give them a voice and have their voices heard.
Yeah, for people who don't understand what a VPN is, you can spoof either an app or a site that you're landing on about your IP address by using an app where you go to that app, and that app will either give you, like I use one called Tunnel Bear, and I can give myself a German IP address or a Lithuanian IP address or whatever. So that's what people, the rank and file in Iran, are extremely sophisticated about this. It's the fourth tweetingest country in the world. And so they obviously, having to live with a regime, regulating their own internet access, They've had to, pass on to each other how to do that, and that to the chagrin of the regime, because now the regime is not as in control as they were in 2009.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, they're also, under a microscope in terms of the world stage. I think that the regime has had to curb some of its activities because of the attention or the negative attention that's on them with regards to the nuclear deal, with regards to the provocations that they have made in the past. I think that I was frankly surprised, I should say, that there wasn't a more robust response from the regime over the weekend when nobody was looking. And now you see, the people have advanced. They're, again, setting fire to a lot of public property, and it continues. I don't know if we have the same numbers that we had in 2009, but the duration and the expansiveness, the nature of the fact that these outlying cities have continued to maintain their protests for almost Thursday, it'll be a week. It's truly remarkable what the Iranian people have accomplished.
So real quickly, we're running late. What is the next thing we should be looking for? What's the fork in the road that's going to be a significant event?
Yeah, I think the next step is for the Iranian people is to kind of give this movement a direction, and I think that's always what's been missing in the past. Another thing that we're seeing that we haven't seen in the past is you see a lot of the chants that are invoking the name of the Shah, who was the leader of Iran 40 years ago, who was toppled, and this Islamic regime took over in its place. Now, the son of the Shah lives in Maryland, right outside Washington, D.C., and many of the chants are either saying Reza Shah, rest in peace, which is his father, who was the king, the monarch of Iran, or calling for his son, who's also named Reza, to come back to the country. Now, there's a debate, obviously, do they really think that this guy who hasn't lived in Iran for 40 years knows people, or that people could agree that this could be their next leader? I think that is up for debate, and there's no, it's a very gray area. But what I do think is that the Iranian people have realized that they need a tangible, a name, a face, a leader. After 2009, that face of the movement became Neda, a woman who was killed in the protests. But here, if they want to look to their future, I think the Iranian people have to come up with a leader, preferably somebody who's on the ground. I know there's a lot of nostalgia that goes with the Shah's family, the Pahlavi family. But I think right now it would be to have a tangible plan, organization, endurance, perseverance to go forward and to really give this to have the significance and to make the changes that they want to see in their country.
All right. Well, we'll stay in touch. Lisa Daftari is frequently seen on Fox News. Also, the editor of the Foreign Desk. You can go to foreigndesknews.com. I'll tweet out that address. Terrific news site. It's a great aggregate of news and creator of news, and a really, really terrific site. So, and right here in LA. So, we will stay in touch, and we'll, if events warrant, we'll burn a call into you again.
Sounds great. Thank you, Ryan.
Great. Lisa Daftari, there she goes. All right, well, I'm running really late. We'll be back right after this. Bryan Stoots filling in for Buck Sexton. You've got America Now. Hey, team, how would you like to get a box delivered to your front door with the coolest tactical gear you could possibly find anywhere and have it all curated for you by veterans of the special operations community? Well, now you can with Crate Club. I'm a Crate Club member, and let me tell you, I love getting my delivery each month. It has all kinds of cool stuff in there. You never know what you're going to get. Medical kits, ballistic inserts, custom knives, multi-tools. We got holidays coming up here. It's a great time to treat yourself or set up a friend or family member with a subscription. This is a veteran-owned, operated, and started company. You should check it out for yourself. And right now, you can get 15% off with promo code BUCKSHOT. That's 15% off, promo code BUCKSHOT. Just go to crateclub.us. That's crateclub.us. Gift options as well. Promo code BUCKSHOT for 15% off.
Every home repair or improvement project should start with a pro you know you can trust. That's why for over 15 years, homeowners have trusted Home Advisor.
Home Advisor is a very easy way to find a home contractor, and for me, it's the only way.
You can use Home Advisor for everything. Your house cleaning, your painting.
Electricians, plumbers, handymen. We've had nothing but fabulous every single time. Home Advisor is a totally free service that instantly connects you with top-rated pros who have passed criminal and financial background checks.
Knowing that they have had the background checks and that they're vetted absolutely gives me a sense of security.
Plus, Home Advisor's True Cost Guide helps you get a fair price by showing you the cost of similar jobs in your area.
Home Advisor is a total solution to any type of work you would ever want to do around your house.
And best of all, it's completely free. Go to homeadvisor.com or download the free app.
2018 is not just a new year. It's also an opportunity to grow your business with top talent. But how do you find it? ZipRecruiter. One click sends your job ad to over 100 of the web's leading job boards. But ZipRecruiter doesn't stop there. Their smart matching technology will instantly alert quality candidates about your job. That means you'll start getting great candidates with the right experience almost as soon as your job is posted. No wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. The right candidates are out there. This is how you find them. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
People from businesses of all sizes trust ZipRecruiter for their hiring needs. We're so confident ZipRecruiter will get you better results than anywhere else. We'll let you try it free. That's right, free. Just click the banner now or go to ZipRecruiter.com/iHeart. That's ZipRecruiter.com/iHeart. ZipRecruiter.com/iHeart.
The comeback. Trailing 35-3, Buffalo would eventually win 41-38 and make it to the Super Bowl that year, but end up losing to the Dallas Cowboys. It was the third of 4 consecutive Super Bowl trips, and they lost all 4 games. And this week in 1980, Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight becomes hip-hop's first top 40 hit.
I said the hip, hop, the hip, the hip, to the hip hop, you don't stop the rocker to the bang, bang, boogie. Say up, jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat.
That's your look back at this week in history.
I don't wish what happened to me and Sharon on anybody. I was stupid on steroids. I got so deep in debt because I was trying to be somebody I wasn't, buying stuff I couldn't afford, bought a whole real estate portfolio, $4 million worth of real estate starting from nothing. I did it all with debt, violating common sense, and it crashed around my ears. And so I was a 26-year-old millionaire and I'm a 28-year-old bankrupt.
The Dave Ramsey Show, weekdays at 3 on The Patriot, AM 1150.
Still proud to be an American. The Patriot. AM 1150.
Welcome back. You've got America Now. Buck Sexton is out. He'll be back in just a few days. Bryan Suits here from KFI in Los Angeles. He'll be back tomorrow. Thanks to Lisa Daftari, a foreign policy journalist and investigative journalist, and also with a deep background in Iranian matters, because that's where her family came from. Her family fled after the revolution, and she is one of hundreds of thousands now of American citizens, first generation born here, to people who fled the Islamic Revolution in 1979. And it's interesting because a huge number of Iranians gravitated towards to Los Angeles, where there's a huge Iranian community in the LA area, and I learned a new thing, because one of my sources, a guy who communicates with people inside Iran, is a Iranian Jew, and that was a thing, and so were Lisa Daftari's families as well, and they, under the Shah, there was, government enforced tolerance, and if there were intolerant mullahs or whatever that were either threatening the Iranian Christian community or the Iranian Jewish community, the Shah sent his secret police, the Savak, to those guys. And it was Ayatollah Khomeini from France, where he was in exile in France, who was recording cassettes that were distributed. The original viral thing were cassettes being, passed around hand to hand. and copied in Iran. And part of the Ayatollah Khomeini's early messages that he consistently continued to send into Iran were about intolerance towards religious minorities in Iran. That in Iran, the Shah had to go, secularism had to go, tolerance for Jews, tolerance for Christians had to go. It had to become a pure theocracy, which is why the name of the country is the Islamic Republic of Iran. And this is what is really interesting versus 2009 is, as she was saying, and you can see it on Twitter, is that the chants that people are taking up are death to the mullahs and death to the regime, death to the theocracy. And I saw a translated video of a woman who was talking to a news camera saying, I will never forgive our parents for bringing this regime to power, but they can make up for it by helping us remove it. And so the president tweeted, I'll get you those here in a couple of minutes, but the key thing here is that the White House indicated today that the Iranian policy, and I guess more specifically the response to these widespread Iranian protests, is going to be, in their words, quote, a 180 from the Obama administration. And in fact, let me see if we can get that. That is, let's get that. The White House spokesperson, Sarah Sanders, vocalizes policy. Trump tweeted about it earlier. They had a more extended statement about it, about saying that their policy would be a 180, and I'll tell you what that means in just a second. But this is Sarah Huckabee Sanders earlier today in Cut 2.
Even Hillary Clinton outlined this when she said that the Obama administration was too restrained at the 2009 protests, and said that won't happen again. And for once, she's right, and we agree with her, because President Trump's not going to sit by silently like President Obama did, and he certainly supports the Iranian people and wants to make that clear.
And what she's specifically talking about was at one point when the protests were getting violent and unarmed people were being killed by the government, because the government owns all the guns in Iran. Weird that, isn't it? President Obama called for restraint on both sides. And it's like, dude, it's a dictatorship. The violence is coming from the government. They have the monopoly on the guns. Just like in 1979, the Shah had a monopoly on the guns. And the people out in the streets protesting were, great. They're beating their chests and they're screaming in the camera and the whole thing, but they were getting mowed down. And it wasn't until...
This is Jeff Motzke, weekly host of The Jeff Motzke Show and founder and CEO of Trilogy Financial. Wherever you are in your financial life, we're here to help. So tune into our show every Saturday at 9 a.m. on AM 1150, The Patriot.
2018 is not just a new year, it's also an opportunity to grow your business with top talent. But how do you find it? ZipRecruiter. One click sends your job ad to over 100 of the web's leading job boards. But ZipRecruiter doesn't stop there. Their smart matching technology will instantly alert quality candidates about your job. That means you'll start getting great candidates with the right experience almost as soon as your job is posted. No wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. The right candidates are out there. This is how you find them. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
People from businesses of all sizes trust ZipRecruiter for their hiring needs. We're so confident ZipRecruiter will get you better results than anywhere else. We'll let you try it free. That's right, free. Just click the banner now or go to ZipRecruiter.com/iHeart. That's ZipRecruiter.com/iHeart. ZipRecruiter.com/iHeart.
1150. AM 1150.
Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, says the protesters are displaying great bravery.
Especially when their government has a long history of murdering its own people who dare to speak the truth.
At least 21 demonstrators have been killed, hundreds more arrested since the protests began. President Trump with more tweets tonight. In one, he responds to North Korea's Kim Jong-un, saying he also has a nuclear button at his desk, but it's much bigger and more powerful. In another, he says he'll announce the most dishonest and corrupt media awards of the year next Monday. Republican Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah announcing today he won't seek re-election this year.
After much prayer and discussion with family and friends, I've decided to retire at the end of this term.
Hatch is the longest-serving Republican in the Senate. Fox News, we report, you decide.
The Starlight Lounge presents an evening with the Progressive Box.
Oh, what a great audience. Let's dim the lights for this next one. Nope, too much. There it is. Gotta get things just right. Like Progressive's Name Your Price tool. Tell us what you want to pay, and we help you find coverage options that fit your budget. And now, the mood is right. Wait, the lights are back on again. Trudy, can you? And now it's completely dark.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Amazing, Wonder, and Ladybird. And that's your weekend box office preview on iHeartRadio.
Now this week's top TV stream.
Happy New Year to you, and here's what you've been watching on TV this week. The history series Nightfall comes in at number 4 with the episode He Who Discovers His Own Self Discovers God. The season 5 premiere of Hallmark Channel's When Calls the Heart comes in at number 4. Next, I'm totally hooked on this show, and I know you are too. It's the A Kiss Before Dying episode of Riverdale at number 3. Next at number 2, it's History Channel again with the latest episode of Vikings. And finally, the top TV stream of the week. It's The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills with Diva Las Vegas.
That's this week's top TV stream.
I have a question about this Harvey business. The Republicans don't even play the game. There's all kinds of points to be made here about phoniness, about hypocrisy, about these people claiming to be the great arbiters of culture and virtue and values, and look at them. The gooey and the icky, sticky fingers of the Democrat Party are all over this, and it might help if the Republicans pointed it out.
Rush Limbaugh, weekday mornings at 9 on The Patriot, AM 1150.
Anytime you're chasing easy money, you're going to get bit. Now, is Bitcoin easy money? Well, yeah, it's gone from 1,000 to 19,000 in 20 seconds. Some of you, if you cashed out today, would have done very, very well playing with Bitcoin. And congratulations. I hope you make a bunch of money. But as a philosophy of running your portfolio, he who hastens to be rich will not go unpunished.
The Dave Ramsey Show, weekdays at 3 on The Patriot, AM 1150.
Telling the truth without a spoonful of sugar. The Patriot, AM 1150.
That's where fake news CNN comes in. They said it was September 4th that they were getting an early release of WikiLeaks. Well, that wasn't true either. I mean, fake news is of ABC fake news, New York Times fake news, NBC, CBS, Washington Post, CNN, Conspiracy Theory TV. It's all over the place. It's so inherently dishonest and corrupt. The whole sewer and swamp is bigger than anybody ever thought.
Sean Hannity, weekdays at noon on The Patriot, AM 1150.
Back with you now, because when it comes to the fight for truth, the buck never stops.
Here's America Now. Buck Sexton will be back in a couple days. Bryan Suits filling in today, tomorrow from KFI in Los Angeles, and we began the hour talking with Lisa Daftari, an investigative journalist, and with a Iranian background. She's a first-generation Iranian American. And besides speaking 4 languages, one of them is Farsi. She has a lot of people there on the inside in Iran. And so how real is the deal? How big of a deal is this? And beginning with your coverage, it's the first business day of 2008. No one, worked yesterday except me. And that goes for the media as well, because this started, if you were listening last week when I filled in Tuesday and Wednesday, there still was not much in the media. And the first thing that CNN had was a story about a pro-regime demonstration. And this was something ginned up in Tehran where the the government ordered, 10,000 people out with signs, and I love repression, Islam is a delight, and all that in signs. And it was dwarfed by the growth of the anti-government protests across Iran that really started to take off Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and then yesterday, and then as we speak. And the regime is just now attempting to take down the internet, but a lot of Iranians are not stupid, and they have been importing satellite internet since 2009. And there are ways to block satellite internet, but they're very complex and they're very expensive, and they probably don't exist out in some of the outlying cities, because the regime thought, well, who does these protests? It's these hippie, Mali-taking university students here in Tehran. They don't do it out in the country. By golly, they love their Islamic Republic out there. So they do have anti-sat phone blocking systems, which were made and provided by the Russians, in fact. And what it does is it transmits a signal on the sat phone band, but it transmits it more strongly than the satellite can. Because the satellite signal, if you have XM radio, if you have satellite radio, then you probably know, or even your vehicle's GPS. The satellite signals just inherently are not very strong because they have to come from many, many, many hundreds of miles away. And so there are ways to spoof or block a satellite. So ever since 2009, the Iranians have invested in those, but just for Tehran. The Iranian people know this too. And they know because you can't stop the market. And this is one of the great things about the internet, is that Iranians are extremely active on the internet. They're very sophisticated about how to shield where their IP address is coming from. And so if the Iranians are trying to block all the IP addresses, the IP address is the numeric address of your specific internet portal and computer. And regionally or nationally, there are certain ones that are only assigned to the U.S., to the western U.S., to the state of California, to the state of Texas, whatever. And so if they block Iranian IPs, well, here's what a lot of Iranians know, and that is to use what's called a virtual network, a VPN. And it looks like you are a German IP, Italian IP, whatever. And so they're very, very good at that. And so for every measure, there's a countermeasure. And so the government is simply, their final solution for this is to just cut the wire, cut the internet wire. But if we're talking about hard landline fiber optic internet, which is the majority of the way the internet is delivered around the world, are fiber optic lines crossing the Atlantic, crossing the Pacific, etc. But a satellite internet system doesn't require a wire, does it? It requires a dish. Not super fast. I mean, I'll tell you personally, because I don't live somewhere where I can get landline internet. I was on satellite internet for almost a year. Hated it. But you know why I hated it? Because I couldn't stream movies. No matter what they say, you can't stream movies. I wasn't fighting for freedom. Satellite internet is pretty damn good if you are just simply trying to post video on Twitter and things like that. And so there are rumors that foreign intelligence services have been sneaking satellite internet systems into Iran since 2009. And when the Iranians fairly easily shut down the primary method of sending information out of Iran, which was cell phones. And so it was pretty easy business to shut down all the Iranian country code SIM cards. But then British intelligence started passing out SIM cards that had 044. They had the UK country code on them, and the Iranians didn't catch on to that for a couple of days. Then they finally just shut down all the cell phones. Well, this is a bit different here in 2017. 8 years later, the Iranians are more sophisticated, and foreign intelligence services are giving them communication systems that don't rely or don't have to, aren't at the whim of the government. So the next steps that you should look for, and again, this is a police state. Regardless of what MSNBC says or government radio, NPR just a week ago, NPR said that Ayatollah Rouhani, the president of Iran, he defeated a hardline cleric for his reelection. And they didn't mention in the story, and they didn't call him Ayatollah, they said Hassan Rouhani. President Rouhani defeated a hardline cleric for his reelection. Well, President Rouhani is a cleric. And there's really no such thing in the Iranian system. There's no such thing as a moderate cleric. You won't get anywhere. The country is run by the hardliners. It's like when Stalin was alive, if you were not on board with his program, you were dead. So by default, by the time Stalin died, everybody was a Stalinist. Now, they pulled back a little bit in Russia, but there was no such thing as, well, he's a moderate. Same with in Iran, that Rouhani was approved by the Supreme Council, by this mysterious Supreme Council of the Islamic Republic. He was the approved candidate, so he wins, so he's the president of Iran, but that's a figurehead. And so it is a police state. They own all the guns. And this is I would have you talk to any of your anti-Second Amendment, anti-private gun ownership friends, and just tell them, check in on this Iranian protest thing. And by the way, don't lecture me all about the power of the people, because the power of unarmed people is virtually nil in a police state. When unarmed people following Mahatma Gandhi in a diaper are facing the army that came from a democracy, like the British Army, yes, you can sit there unarmed and be gunned down, and meanwhile, back in Britain, people go bananas, and they don't like seeing their troops do that. That was the secret of India. Iran's not India. Iran is a theocracy, and it is a theocracy where only the government has the guns. And the only reason the Shah was overthrown is because some of the guys with guns began to trickle away from his side. Rather than shoot at their own people, they walked across the square and joined the protesters. And one day, there were 10 rifles with the protesters, and there was 100, then there was 1,000. And then the entire Air Force defected from the Shah and joined the protests in 1979. Well, that hasn't quite happened yet in Iran, but in a country like Iran, there ain't no revolution if you have guns. I mean, pardon me, if you don't have guns, there's not a revolution. There's no silent protest or anything like that. The regime can gun you down when they want because they have the guns. So do you absolutely, positively promise me that the United States government will never be so authoritarian that you feel that it's no longer the U.S. government? Are you telling me that we're immune from that we're somehow inoculated? Other democracies have failed in the past, by the way. Ask your buddy or your neighbor or your coworker, how did Hitler come to power? There was a vote. They won the election. The Nazis won a plurality, and then they formed a government. There was no coup or anything. They won an election. How did Slobodan Milosevic get reelected? Well, they had a vote, and he won the election. So you're naive and you don't know anything about history if you think that somehow democracies, specifically our democracy, is somehow immune to this stuff. We have a pretty damn good recipe, and it seems to be working. Great. But one of the fundamental ingredients to the recipe of American freedom is what? An armed citizenry. In the Bill of Rights, it's called a militia. But if you know anything about 1783, then you know that you were the militia, and I was a militia. When that document was written, we were the militia. Citizens were expected to be the militia. So tell your friends that, and use my little recipe analogy. All right, we'll be back in just a second. A social media star makes jokes about a suicide. the guy that he's actually standing next to. That plus more stuff. It is America Now. Buck Sexton will be back in a couple days. Bryan Suits filling in for America Now.
Hey team, how would you like to get a box delivered to your front door with the coolest tactical gear you could possibly find anywhere and have it all curated for you by veterans of the special operations community? Well, now you can with Crate Club. I'm a Crate Club member, and let me tell you, I love getting my delivery each month. It has all kinds of cool stuff in there. You never know what you're going to get. Medical kits, ballistic inserts, custom knives, multi-tools. We got holidays coming up here. It's a great time to treat yourself or set up a friend or family member with a subscription. This is a veteran-owned, operated, and started company. You should check it out for yourself. And right now, you can get 15% off with promo code Buckshot. That's 15% off, promo code Buckshot. Just go to crateclub.us. That's crateclub.us. Gift options as well. Promo code Buckshot for 15% off. The battles of the past define the present. This is Buck Sexton, and starting on January 8th, 2018, you'll be able to join me on an epic journey into history, the Shields High podcast. Available on iHeartRadio, Shields High will be an exploration of the war for Western civilization as described through gripping accounts of the most pivotal moments when the Christian world and the Islamic world came into direct conflict. Shields High will be a true journey into the fight between East and West, Cross and Crescent, Crusade and Jihad. We will dig into the truth of these histories, learn about the great heroes, martyrs, villains, and traitors, and connect these legendary struggles with blood feuds and national security challenges that haunt us to this day. All the while, we will bring ourselves as close as we can to the bone-shattering charges of the front lines. Be sure to check out the Shields High podcast, and remember, it is time to awaken the iron.
I'm pretty convinced now, based on how many people have become millionaires and how many people have gotten out of debt, and how many people have increased their generosity, and how many people have saved their marriage that was about to fall apart over money. I'm pretty convinced now that on these money subjects, if you're upset by what I say, it's probably because you need to change.
The Dave Ramsey Show, weekdays at 3 on The Patriot. AM 1150.
The press, in general, is a mess. The average millennial doesn't believe the press. They don't believe the New York Times or the Drudge Report. They don't even believe in social media. If you look at the credibility of the press, it is gone. Look at the systems of the liberal press. It's gone. Don't cheer, because look at the systems of the press on the right. It doesn't exist. So they're both being flushed down the toilet.
The Glenn Beck Program, weekday mornings at 6 on The Patriot, AM 1150.
Sean Hannity shares what it's like to live next door to Rush. Like the time Sean needed to borrow a lawnmower, and Rush responded, "There is no effing way."
Oh man, Rush, the best neighbor you could ask for, is so generous. Oh, hey Rush, I brought you some cookies.
What is that? Rush at 9, followed by Hannity at noon, making them live next to each other. The Patriot, AM 1150. Never paid for by government subsidies.
This is The Patriot, AM 1150.
What do we do here every day? I simply report the news. All of it. And give you aspects of it and angles that you don't get in the drive-by media. Or maybe in any other place. We don't do topics here. We don't do causes. We don't do guests. We just do the news of the day related to how I can use it to inform people what I believe. It's a way of explaining the horrors of liberalism.
Rush Limbaugh, weekday mornings at 9 on The Patriot, AM 1150.
Hey, you've got America Now. Buck Sexton is on vacation. He'll be back in a couple of days. Bryan Suits filling in for Buck. And it is time to read the Trump tweets that kicked off a lot of today's kerfuffle in the chattering classes in Washington, D.C. So it was late yesterday that the president said this about Pakistan. Quote, the United States has foolishly given Pakistan more than $33 billion in aid over the last 15 years, and they have given us nothing but lies and deceit, thinking of our leaders as fools. They give safe haven to the terrorists we hunt in Afghanistan with little help. No more! Exclamation point. There was, even amongst Donald Trump's most ardent critics in the intelligence community, there was still, I think, a rush of approval because he said something that no American president has said before. And this goes all the way back to George W. Bush when he was standing at that post-meeting open mic presser in Islamabad with General Musharraf. And Bush supposedly had flown to Pakistan to read him the Riot Act and say, get to jump on board the team for the big win. We don't know if we can trust you and all that. This is like 2006. And President Bush makes his boilerplate statement, and he says, we talked about American-Pakistani cooperation, and we're looking forward to a bright future with a lot of progress, against the Taliban and Al-Qaeda and the whole thing. And he finishes his statement, and he looks over at Musharraf, and Musharraf isn't saying anything. And Bush says, do you want to say something here? I mean, you could hear the annoyance in Bush's voice. But Bush never said anything like this. And of course, Barack Obama never met a Pakistani who he didn't love. I mean, why wouldn't he? He visited Pakistan when he was in college as an undergrad with a Pakistani exchange student because Obama started at Occidental College here in L.A. and then magically transferred to Harvard because he must have had a 4.0, but that's not what he had at Occidental. But anyway, he had a roommate or whatever you want to call it who was a Pakistani guy, and he took Obama to Pakistan. And so Obama had this inability to critique or criticize Pakistan's complicity with the Taliban, and recall that when we killed Osama bin Laden, we had to treat Pakistani airspace as hostile airspace, not inform them that we were going in there, where we were going, and we had to use radar evading aircraft to do it. That's how close of an ally Pakistan is. And then, oh, by the way, and you can ask anybody who served in a combat capacity in Afghanistan, either in the CIA or in the U.S. military, especially SOCOM guys, the Pakistanis are no help. They are no help. They're no help on the border. They literally, the Pakistani government basically surrenders the border to the tribes. One of the most porous parts of the border is the federally administered tribal areas, the FATA, which is this huge swath of mountainous terrain that is on the border of Afghanistan, and it's effectively an autonomous country because the Pakistani government refuses to have any presence in there. And they know that the Taliban are shooting back and forth across that border. They could put more border guards there, but they just don't. And then they get all pissed when we violate their airspace or whatever. And the worst kept secret about the Pakistani intelligence service, the ISI, the Inter-Services Intelligence Agency, is that they created the Taliban. This is sort of the thing I wish most Americans knew, and certainly most American elected officials at the federal level, is that the Pakistanis, after the Soviets left in '89, it was chaos for several years, and it was the Pakistani intelligence service, whose job is to protect their country. I get it. But they chose to do it by creating a movement that would take over in Afghanistan. They created the Taliban because they didn't want chaos on their northern border. They wanted something that they could count on. And religious fundamentalism fit the bill. So a dictatorship that they established, great. You don't have to guard that border. They just didn't want chaos and possibly India to start having any influence in Afghanistan. They created the Taliban. And then the Taliban invited Al-Qaeda in. Osama bin Laden was their minister of defense on 9/11/2001. bin Laden was the Minister of Defense of Afghanistan. And the Pakistanis knew it. And when he was discovered in Abbottabad, whatever the official story is, whatever you want to believe, if you want to believe that fanciful movie, go ahead. It's a cool movie, but it's fiction. The Pakistanis knew he was there. They built him that house. That house wasn't a house, it was a prison. The barbed wire leaned inward. They knew he was there. Just anybody doesn't move to that town. That is a town that is virtually a gated community. The town of Abbottabad is sort of a combination of Palm Springs and West Point. But imagine Palm Springs with a moat. So of course they had him there, and of course we knew that they had him there. That's why we didn't ask permission to go in. Not because we were afraid of leaks or whatever. It's because they would have moved him, because they moved him there. And seems to me that Obama was told that, but he never said it out loud. George W. Bush knew that as well. He never said it out loud. Somebody briefed Trump on this, and he picked up his smartphone and tweeted that out. That's what it certainly seems like to me. I ain't saying nothing, but that's what he said. The Pakistanis, of course, went complete ape. They summoned the American ambassador for a strongly worded dressing down yesterday. They also didn't deny it, because the foreign aid money that goes to Pakistan goes directly to their government officials. They dole it out like any tin pot third world dictatorship doles it out. If you don't know how this works, because as a private contractor, I've worked for the State Department, and I've worked for the Pentagon, and then other government agencies. The State Department just delivers a bucket of cash. When the State Department gives out aid, they go to the whoever the Hottentot tribal leader is, or the president of Pakistan, and they get the money, and that's called foreign aid. When the Pentagon gives you foreign aid, it sits in a bank vault. They say, boop, we just moved $4 billion from the right column to the left column. It's yours to spend. Here are the following vendors you may spend it on: Lockheed Martin, Northrop, Boeing, AM General. You when you take American Pentagon money, you buy American. So that is how that aid's doled out. Well, the State Department really doesn't care. The State Department just throws it around at whoever has the shiniest hat. State Department lands in Islamabad, and they say, who has the shiniest hat? You, sir. You have the shiniest hat.
Ever find yourself missing your favorite KEIB shows when you're away from SoCal? Take KEIB with you wherever you go with the iHeartRadio app for your smartphone. You can hear all your favorite radio stations, hosts, music, and even create your own station. Go to patriot.la and download it now and never miss a Rushism, Hannity, Beck, a local story, or anything KEIB has to say. Download it now. The iHeartRadio app for your smartphone and heart KEIB wherever you go. Just a spoon. Telling the truth without a spoonful of sugar. The Patriot, AM 1150.
KEIB Los Angeles. This is the Patriot, AM 1150, broadcasting throughout the Southland and all over the world on iHeartRadio.
Yesterday that he has a nuclear button on his desk. The president, in a tweet, asking if someone from Kim's depleted and food-starved regime can please inform him that I, too, have a nuclear button, but it is much bigger and more powerful one than his, and my button works. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen says she didn't see the tweet, but said,
the president speaks for himself. I think we have to continue, as he said, to take the threat from North Korea very seriously. Certainly at DHS, we're doing all we can to prepare for any possible scenario that would involve the homeland.
There is no nuclear button on President Trump's desk. The so-called nuclear football is carried around by a rotating group of military officers everywhere the president goes. President Trump also tweeting support for the protesters in Iran for a second day.
I think the ultimate end game would be that the citizens and the people of Iran are actually given basic human rights, and he'd certainly like to see them stop being a state sponsor of terror. I think that's something the whole world would like to see.
White House spokeswoman Sarah Sanders, and she says the international community cannot sit silent as those demonstrating are met with violence. Earlier today, U.S. Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley addressed the UN Security Council asking for a special session to discuss the protests. At least 21 people died in 6 days of demonstrations. A lawyer for a Canadian man freed late last year with his American wife and children after being held hostage in Afghanistan says his client has been arrested and faces at least a dozen charges, including sexual assault. Joshua Boyle also faces assault and forcible confinement charges. Boyle, his wife Caitlin Coleman, and 3 children were rescued 5 years after they were abducted while on a backpacking trip. Fox News, fair and balanced.
Did you know that over 90% of male enhancement pills are virtually the same thing that's repackaged, redone over and over again? Why settle for the same old product when you can get something completely different? Something that takes male enhancement into the 21st century. Something that really works. Men, you need to try Noxitril, the all-natural male enhancement formula that will unlock your performance in the bedroom to a level you could only dream of. Try to imagine Viagra on steroids. Noxitril is so powerful, that's why it took years for it to finally become available to the public without a prescription. So call now and take advantage of our special Noxitril free bottle offer today. Oh yeah, we recommend that you use the Noxitril dose as directed. Think of your partner. We certainly don't want you to overperform in the bedroom.
Call now and find out how to get a free bottle of Noxitril while supplies last. Call 1-800-551-4182. Free bottles for a limited time, so call now. 800-551-4182. That's 800-551-4182.
Imagine walking into San Manuel Casino. Just you and thousands of slot machines. You marvel at the beauty around you, but your concentration is unbroken. You know your machine. You find your luck as the first reel clicks into place. Then the world starts spinning as the second 7 appear. Holding your breath, you watch as the winning light shines through. The final 7 locks in. This is the feeling of all thrill. This is San Manuel Casino. San Manuel Casino. All thrill. Must be 21 or over to enter casino. Please gamble responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
2018 is not just a new year. It's also an opportunity to grow your business with top talent. But how do you find it? ZipRecruiter. One click sends your job ad to over 100 of the web's leading job boards. But ZipRecruiter doesn't stop there. Their smart matching technology will instantly alert quality candidates about your job. That means you'll start getting great candidates with the right experience almost as soon as your job is posted. No wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. The right candidates are out there. This is how you find them. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
People from businesses of all sizes trust ZipRecruiter for their hiring needs. We're so confident ZipRecruiter will get you better results than anywhere else. We'll let you try it free. That's right, free. Just click the banner now or go to ZipRecruiter.com/iHeart. That's ZipRecruiter.com/iHeart. ZipRecruiter.com/iHeart.
And then for Bald Freak Ronnie, gonna take you back in time and get you a little rock and roll history. We start this week in 1959, where Johnny Cash played a free concert for the inmates of San Quentin Prison in California. One of the audience members was 19-year-old Merle Haggard, who was in the midst of a 15-year sentence that he served 3 years of for grand theft auto and armed robbery. This week in 1969, the entire shipment of John Lennon and Yoko Ono's album Two Virgins was seized by authorities in New Jersey due to the full frontal nudity photograph of the couple that was on the cover. The album was eventually wrapped in plain brown paper when it became available at record stores. This week in 1987, Aretha Franklin became the first woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And born this week in 1960, Michael Stipe, songwriter and lead singer of R.E.M. The band was pivotal in the creation and development of the alternative rock genre and is best known for their 1992 album Automatic for the People.
Me in the spotlight, losing my religion.
There's your look back at this week's Rock Almanac.
Trump, at the various cabinet-level bureaucracies,